So interesting definition of ahimsa in terms of non-violence. I think one of the blogs that I was reading that Gandhi Bapu had expressed what ahimsa meant for him, and I'm curious to get your view on this. He said that ahimsa for him meant love. Could you explain that in a bit more detail?
Well, as I said, yeah, if you're not going to hurt, then what are you going to do? You're going to love.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the point, that we need to live with a mindset of wanting to love everything and not judge it and not reprimand it and accept. I think love also here means acceptance. I think one of the things that's missing in today's world is we don't accept each other. We don't accept each other's thoughts or feelings or beliefs or opinions. And we always think that mine is better than yours. So, you know, this subject of love is very broad and vast, but I think in this context, it means respect everyone and everything. So this is what I think that Bapu Gandhiji was meaning, that the more we love, then we don't want to kill, right? And killing here doesn't just mean killing the person, but, you know, killing their ideology, killing their belief.
Yes, of course. And I think one of the things that I remember a lot of his work focused on that we remember is kind of the violence on the outside that we saw. But actually the roots of the inner violence was very much a big part of what he wanted to achieve within society as well. And I think when you're talking about respect and love, you know, I remember the principles by which he lived. He was actually living this way in every way. So in the way he communicated, in the way he wrote, in the way he dressed, he pretty much embraced ahimsa as a way of life. Can you? I know this is a journey that, you know, you've started for yourself many years ago, particularly, you know, starting with meditation at an early age of 8. But when did this become kind of real for you? When did you feel that actually I consciously want to practice ahimsa and I consciously want to practice this lifestyle and I see its benefits? Was there a particular point in your life where you felt, you know, this is making a lot more sense to me now as the right way to operate?
Yeah, I think I was too young to think of ahimsa. But what I think I would like to share, Ash, is that what I was loving is how I was being treated. And I think that you can tie in with ahimsa, because when I started to come to the meditation center, and at the time there was our seniors, as you know, Dadi Janki, Jayanti Ben, some of you might know, but not know, but I was brought up in London. And so I was visiting the main center in London and Sudesh Didi. And the feeling you got was just pure love, acceptance. And even the other day we were sharing, Ash, you know, to be asked, like, when are you coming back? How long will you be out? You know, this feeling, like some might find it an intrusion, but it's actually care and concern. Mm-hmm. And, you know, see you next week, because I only used to go there on weekends. And it felt like, yeah, you know, somebody actually likes my company. Somebody actually wants me back. So it was this whole feeling of family, belongingness, kindness, caring. And I think that's, yeah, what kept drawing me back. It's not that I didn't have that at home. I know my sisters are listening now. It's not that I didn't have that. We had a very loving family, and mom was fantastic. But yeah, this spiritual love just kept pulling me toward itself. And every Friday I would have my bag packed in the morning. As soon as it was 4 o'clock, I'd, you know, come home from school. I'd take some pocket money from mom for the train. I'd take my apple, my bag, and I would head off to the center. So what was the pull, Ash? The pull was pure love, pure spiritual love. And of course, the teachings we are being taught also of just, loving everyone, not hating, right? That was also Gandhi's belief, like no hatred, no ill feeling, nothing impure in your heart, nothing bad in your thoughts, because that's the seed of everything, isn't it?
Mm. Mm.
As soon as you have some negative thought, it gives rise to feeling, and then it gives rise to action.
So can I just ask you something in terms of, kind of this recognition that, because I know in my own upbringing, love was the first pull, and there was a lot of love from the sisters, and I didn't realize that you were actually raised in Kenya. I had a lot of love from the centers in Kenya, and certainly been raised by a lot of the sisters in Kenya, and that feeling really pulled me. But then when I began my journey, it took me years before I really understood this concept of nonviolence in action, because I found myself resorting to violence in a passive way without even being aware of it. And so, until I matured in this knowledge and realized that actually this is harming me, I couldn't really change it or transform it. And I guess one of the questions I had was, why is it that we always end up, we know what the spiritual truth is, and the spiritual truth is, let's meet each other with love and respect. But why do we tend to default to violence in some way, to meet violence? What does that?
Well, because we don't believe enough in the power of love, the power of peace. There's a story of Swami Vivekananda, and he was going somewhere, traveling, walking through some fields or something, whatever. Anyhow, he came across an animal, a fearsome animal, and he thought, oh no, okay, he's going to eat me up. But Swami Vivekananda thought, okay, even if he eats me up, at least my body will be of some use. And he was totally at peace with that moment that he might die. And then what happens, Ash? This animal just walks past him. And he wonders what's happened. So I think, that if we are totally at peace in our life, then we don't need to resort to violence. I think a big part also of the spiritual knowledge is understanding. Mm-hmm. I mean, why we have spiritual teachings every morning is so that we can understand deeper and deeper aspects of what's going on in life. And why are we responding or reacting to life as we are? And once I become clear on that, then I change my ways. So before, where I thought I had to, oppose violence with violence, or anger with anger, or a heavy or loud voice with my loud voice, I realized that does not work in the long run. Right? I understand that it doesn't work in the long run. And so I try other methods. And once we start experimenting with power of thoughts, sending vibes, sending these pure feelings towards that individual, we start to see the magic. And then I realized, well, why was I shouting in the first place? Why did I need to get angry in the first place? Because this seems to be working. Actually, even one lady here, actually, she's in the other room. She has a class. She's a Kuwaiti lady, and she was just telling me that, earlier she used to shout with her kids and get angry. And now she achieves the same thing without shouting. And they ask her, Mom, why don't you get angry anymore? And she said, well, I don't need to. So yeah, Ash, I think we don't believe enough in the power of silence, the power of peace, the power of kindness.
So it's something we have to spend more time cultivating. But this aspect of understanding is interesting, because until we're able to really understand ourselves and understand what is actually happening inside of us, we can't begin to change or transform that in any way. And I guess you mentioned this term realization. Can you, I guess, shed a bit more light on this difference between realization and understanding? Because I know I can understand that something's wrong, but may not necessarily want to change it. But realization carries a different energy about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit corny, but we say, you see with real eyes, which is, your third eye. So there's an expression that I have three eyes, two to look with and one to see with.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I see, and we say this in English also, right? We say, aha, I see now. It's not I literally see, but it means, now I understand. Now I see what's going on. And I always feel that we need to understand the language in which we think. Now, I don't literally mean English, Hindi, etc., although that is also applicable. Like if you speak to me in French, I will not understand it. So I
Yeah.
need English, right? In the same manner, I need to understand in the language in which I think. And so I need to tune into that. I need to tune into that by, if it's spiritual language, then I need to tune into it with spiritual power,
Mm-hmm.
with spirit, I have to have some spark of spirituality to begin to understand spiritual wisdom, because I cannot understand spirituality with a very body conscious, very materialistic mindset and attitude. And that's why, when people go through some life-changing events or out of body experience, then there is a spark, that lights up. And then they think, okay, I'm ready for this now. And that's when that frequency matches this, whatever you call it, the spiritual realm. And they start listening, they start learning, and of course, many times, having deep realizations of who I am, who I was, who I am, and what I want to become. So to really realize, truly realize, I mean, I've had, I won't talk about them, Ash, but I've had realizations in my meditations about, what I should be doing, what I shouldn't be doing. And it's in those moments of silence. It's in those moments of sitting with myself with honesty. It's in those moments of sitting face to face with God. And I really feel I come to terms with what I'm doing. And I can accept, right? I can accept it from me that, Aruna, don't do this. It's not good for you. So I think we need to create, that right vibe and the right language, and then realization is possible. But I think, just to add, Ash, there has to be, I think, consistency, discipline, like with exercise. You cannot just go exercise once or twice and go in the mirror and see if you've toned up or lost some fat, or you have to be consistent with this. So same with spirituality, you have to be consistent on a daily basis. It's really like we say, putting oil to this flame every day so that the flame can burn more and more brightly, so there's more light in the soul, so you can see more clearly. It has to be consistent.
And I guess this your experiences of being able to see within with clarity, that's a huge aspect of honesty or self-honesty that you are activating within yourself in these moments of silence. Have you, I guess, when we're talking about connecting with our own inner truth and really beginning to see and work from it. When we're caught up in this mist of reaction, it becomes really difficult to see what's actually happening within ourselves on a truthful basis. So you talked a bit about silence, to really emerge those realizations inside of you. Can you just share a little bit more about this aspect of soul consciousness, particularly when it comes to tapping into silence and beginning to explore this dimension of non-violence within the soul, deeply within the soul, as a practice? Because I feel that your practice seems to have taken you deeper in this search for what is truthful inside of you, and then you've responded to situations on that basis. But as you said, you can't respond to situations from the consciousness of the ego or the body. It has to be from a different consciousness. Does that make sense? Are you able to just share some background on that?
Well, I'll share according to what I understood. One of the things that might help our friends here today is something that actually I did a lot of this in Canada when I was in Canada, and I was processing stuff. And I still do it, but less so, because a lot has been processed that needed to be processed. And what I do, Ash, is I sit with myself and I take whatever is the issue at hand and I honestly sit with it. I wouldn't even call that stage meditation, because I'm not really maybe peaceful in that moment. And there's a lot of maybe thoughts going on because maybe I'm confused, I don't know, maybe I'm anxious, maybe I'm worried. But what you do is you just sit with yourself, like this lovely couch, just take a seat. We've got a lovely view in front. I would just stare at that. And then you just bring this in front of you, this issue. And in a way, you start to operate on that issue. And you start dissecting and seeing and really, Ash, to go through it, not to avoid it, not to be in denial. Literally, like initially it looks like a real tiger, but afterwards you'll see it's a paper tiger. So this issue that was really worrying me, troubling me, maybe suffocating me, you just sit with it. Really, this is my experience, until it has no more power over you, until you become greater than it. And when you become greater than it, then that becomes small, right? Because of course, yes, we know a lot of it, we made it up in our mind. It becomes small, and I can now literally kick it like a football or whatever I need to do with it. So this is one thing I want to say is really, sitting through that. And maybe the other example I can give right now that comes to my mind is, Ash, there's a story of a monk and a prostitute. So every day the monk is sitting outside his temple, meditating in the evening. And at the same time, there's a prostitute that walks across the street. And so the monk is meditating, and as he sees her, he starts to have these thoughts. Look at her, she's characterless. She shouldn't be doing this. It's better she's dead. He just has very bad thoughts for her. And what is she thinking? She's going to work, doing her thing. And on the way, she looks at this peaceful monk and she says, how peaceful is this monk? And she thinks like, I wish I could be like him. And I wish I could be at one with God. And he's so blessed to be in this temple, and he's so pure. And as she's thinking about him, her thoughts are giving her so much calm and contentment. And so what I want to say, Ash, is it's really also how we use our mind and our thoughts to face what is coming towards us, because this is the power of Raj Yoga meditation, that we become masters of our mind and we take charge of our mind. There's also another story, Ash, of, and apparently this was real in Korea. I mean, I've heard it. And the story is that there were two people fighting on the street. And again, a monk comes along and he just, without saying anything, he just puts his hand in the middle of them. Right? These two are fighting, right? You can imagine the scene. And then this monk just comes and he puts his hand in the middle of them. And they stop fighting. I mean, what kind of power is that? It's the power of that inner peace. It's the power of non-violence. It's not taking sides, not being judgmental, not, again, back to your earlier question, you don't need anger to fight anger. You don't need violence to fight violence. So I really do believe in this, power of inner peace, well, inner power. And when we really begin to embody that, then it naturally exudes out into everything that we do. How can it not?
I think there were some lovely examples there. Have you got any, you mentioned aspects of ahimsa or non-violence towards relationships in your examples. Do you have particular practices towards the planet, towards money, towards animals that form this lifestyle? We know that hurting or affecting anything is in a violent way will cause us some burden inside. Could you maybe share the impact of the impact of living in a non-violent way in all these areas and some of the practices that you've embraced?
Yeah, I'd like to share, Ash. Many years ago, there was a BBC documentary in which, and it's probably still there on the net, in which the reporters were reporting on a cocoa farm in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And after they finished reporting, and of course they were reporting that the people who produce the cocoa, they literally get like equivalent to like $2 for a huge bag, which is pittance compared to what these chocolate companies go and do with it and earn from it. But that's not the point. The point is, as the reporters were driving away, one of the young kids is running after them. So the driver, he saw from the side mirror and he stopped, and the translator got out, and there's this little kid, literally like, this is still high, but little, and he's saying to them in his language, I want to go home to my mommy. And he has been kidnapped to work on this farm. Now, when I saw that and I thought, oh, this is how our chocolate is produced. And we're so far, right? We're so far from connecting the dots that the chocolate I'm eating today, how was it gathered? How was it stripped from them, produced, et cetera, to get to us? And that applies to everything.
Mm.
And actually, I remember telling Sister Jenti this story, and then she said to me, well,
sorry.
And Sister Jenti said to me, and this is why she said, we should only take that which we need from the planet. We should not take access. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is that, Ash, anything that we take and we abuse or misuse or waste is actually violence on the planet. It's fine that we take it and we survive, and that's helping us. I feel then we're in cooperation, in collaboration. But if I'm taking more than I need, then I'm not respecting, right, the planet. And there's a nice analogy also that if you like a flower, you will pick it. But if you love a flower, you will water it. Now, regarding money, Ash, again, what is the violence with money? It's, again, the ego that I have the money, I can do what I want with it. Who are you to tell me what to do with it? And what do? We just waste it, we throw it. So again, there's not the respect for money. And then sometimes, yes, we put it to such bad use, we create such bad karma with the money, that's what comes back to us, the pain, the sorrow. And then we don't know, where did this come from? What did I do to create this? Or if we have really misused it, then we become poor or bankrupt, or we don't have the money when we need it. Now, abusing people. What about having violence on people? I mean, it never works, Ash. You know, like many times, many people say, but I have to get angry, I have to get mad, they don't listen to me. And I say, yeah, but they will listen to you that time, maybe to get out, you know, to get out of your clutches. But they won't come back to help you. You won't win their loyalty. So this kind of violence does not work, Ash. It doesn't work in the long run. Actually, can I just mention something else? Maybe those who are from the Indian background will maybe resonate with this. But have you heard of Chanakya?
I can't say I have, no.
Okay. Well, Chanakya, or Kautilya, some may know him, but he is considered the pioneer of political science and economics in India. And he was there from 4th BC, 4th century BC to 3rd century. And he came up with something called Sam, Dam, Bhed, Dand. This is very famous. You ask any Indian and they will know. Sam, Dam, Bhed, and Dand. And they use this philosophy in economics and in politics. So anyway, I just want to mention his theory. So his theory is that, you know, first you do samna, you try to face, you have a conversation, you try to convince the other party by talking it through with them, you know, and saying, okay, let's try and solve this conflict. Let's let that be the first step. Okay, if that doesn't work, then you do dan, which means you gift them. In a way, you try and bribe them with your gifts, I guess. But just sometimes, you know, it's the price that you put on it. Like you say, okay, how much, you know, to work together, how much will it take? So there's a price involved, or a gift. So we say that's done. And then bhed, right? Bhed means that, okay, if those two don't work, then you create some kind of a difference between them. You know, we say bhed bhav, which is like you try to influence their mind, you use trickery. Now, Ash, see, if those three don't work, then you use dand. And dand or danda is the stick, right? So you use the force. And as I said, this is very prevalent, I think, everywhere in the world, not just India, but this has formed the basis of a lot of the political science. And so what I'd like to say is, yes, Ash, we should first talk things through. We shouldn't revert to violence as the first means. So when we talk things through, when we are kind, when we are willing to learn, and maybe I can just, you know, do a pitch for my book. So on my blog, there is the conflict resolution book. And in that, I talk about conflict resolution skills. So that's available as a free download, if you would like. So I think when we try to use these communication skills, I think that's the first means. And so to come from a place of love and respect. And if I can I just continue with one or
Please.
two? Yeah. So I want to also give the example of the founder, Brahma Baba, the founder of the Brahma Kumaris. Now, what happened is in the beginning, he wasn't a favorite of everyone. He was a favorite of some, but not all. And Ash, one day, the anti-party, the people who didn't like him, they hired an assassin to kill him. There was big prize money on his head. And so they told this one Sikh that you go, you get his head, and we will give you money. And so the Sikh went, and like you've seen our campuses, they're not heavily guarded. No. So it was easy for him to jump over the wall. He found his way to where Baba was staying. And as he entered and he saw Baba, and he just stared at Baba, and Baba could sense that he's come with this intention. Plus he had this big sword, you had to like this. And this man just saw a lot of light coming from Baba. He saw so much light that he just then put his sword down, and he just went to the floor and he said, please forgive me, please forgive me. And actually one of the sisters was coming in with Baba's food at the time. And she noticed this. So she called the others. And what did Baba do? Baba didn't shout. Baba didn't get angry. Baba didn't say, right, call the police, lock him up. But you know what Baba did? Baba said, make sure he has some dinner before he goes. I mean, that is amazing. And this account has been told by a few dadis. So it's not just one person's account. So Ash, this is the kind of love. And another story I want to share about Baba is, so Baba was actually a diamond merchant in his early days. And what happened is that he was looking at some diamonds. They normally keep diamonds in these pouches, paper pocket pouches. And so he just had to rush somewhere. So he just left the pouches there. And then what happened is the goldsmith's sons had come. Normally the goldsmith would come and Baba would tell him, do like this, put the diamond here. He'd direct him for the design. Now that day, Baba rushed, the goldsmith's sons came, and one of them took some diamonds. So when Baba came back, he emptied it and he noticed there's a few diamonds missing. Now, Baba knew that it couldn't be his people because he trusted them without a doubt. So he asked them, has somebody been here? So they said, yes, this diamond, the goldsmith's sons have come. And so what did Baba do? Baba went to their house. Now, the goldsmith and his elder son were already in their shop or workshop. And so when Baba entered, then Baba said to that boy, he was a young boy, Baba said, do you have the pouch of diamonds? And this boy, he says, so my brother told you? He told me not to tell you, and he has told you himself, And of course, Baba didn't do any of this, right? And so Baba said, look, just give me the diamonds. Don't do this again. The police will catch you next time. Your dad will beat you. Just give me back the diamonds. And he took the diamonds and he went and he didn't do anything about it. So this was even before he turned spiritual. That,
incredible.
Baba had such a calm temperament that in the long run it worked. It won people, won loyalty.
I think you reminding me of some of these stories shows me that there was the practice of non-violence was very strong in that individual, in Baba, before he started his spiritual journey. And he just exuded this sense of peace very, very naturally. And I'm looking at the chat at the moment. I'm just seeing a few questions come through, and I just wonder if we've got time just to take some of these questions. One of the questions that has come up is that there is a lot of mental abuse in families these days. Looking at our time today, and how can one help these poor souls without interfering? A really interesting question in terms of how do we begin to deal with family members. Do we just stay peaceful? And sometimes non-violence can be perceived as passive. How can we help without interfering?
Yeah, well, firstly, I want to say it's not easy, and every situation has to be dealt separately on its own. And I'm just going to make a general statement. Actually, also in the conflict resolution book, I talk about aggressive behavior, assertive behavior, and passive behavior. Now, aggressive behavior, yes, is where if I'm aggressive, then I'm not respecting the other party or person. In assertive behavior, I'm respecting myself, but I'm also respecting you. And in passive behavior, I'm not respecting me, I'm only respecting you. So what I want to say is, yeah, I think we all can do with being a little assertive, which is to think of ourselves a little bit. And this is not selfish. When we sit for meditation, we are not being selfish. We are trying to empower ourselves so that we can then be of help when we come out of our meditation. So, don't think that if you take time out for yourself, this is selfishness. No. So when I sit in meditation, I take power. What am I doing in that, Ash? I am having more and more self-respect. And then I'm saying to myself, I don't want to be treated like this. So it's not that I'm getting mad at them. It's like once, somebody asked Dadi Gulzar, one of our senior Dadis, but Dadi, this one, it gives me a lot of sorrow. And Dadi said, but you are the one taking it, no? So I know, I can't generalize this for abuse, physical abuse, but let's say mental, like if we think that somebody's trying to torture us mentally, our mind is in our hands, our thoughts are within our hands. So we can choose, right, to ignore it. And again, I have another case here where somebody is saying, like, there's just constant criticism at home. And now she's learned, she's been coming for a while, and now she's learned, she says, I just hear but don't hear. I'm learning to switch off. And she said, I'm learning not to respond, so the situation doesn't get bigger. So I believe that, yeah, when we begin to work on ourselves, we strengthen our inner core, then really nobody dare.
Yeah.
And this is our weapon, is our power of silence, right? Our power of self-respect. Then nobody dare do that to me. And I think this is, we didn't talk enough about it, Ash, but yeah, we cannot inflict this violence on ourselves by having these waste and negative and ill thoughts.
And it's a good point you make, because the words may come, but actually it's what we do with those words when they come. As you said, in this particular scenario, this lady just simply allowed them to pass through. So really we have the choice in terms of what is it we're taking from these situations that are changing the way I actually am, by my own truth. Or I can choose to remain strong and bring something of value instead, right?
Yeah, and it's like, what they say on the plane, like, learn to put on your own mask before helping others. So you strengthen yourself first. And you have a high image of yourself before you go to try and help others.
I'm looking at time, and I'd like to ask you one question, just in terms of kind of a practical framework. And I know the Brahma Kumaris, we teach a particular lifestyle, and this lifestyle in some ways actually helps us be more nonviolent on a daily basis. But if you had to prescribe a practical framework to consciously living in a nonviolent way, what would it include? What are the sorts of things that you would tell somebody to practice?
Wow. Definitely. And people who live with me and around me, I mean, Ash, we have to think positive. We have to, whether it concerns me or the life around me or the people around me. You'd be amazed how just this one point of just be positive, and just trust that whatever's happening, there is some benefit in what is happening. And if I can stay positive, then I can stay powerful. If I can stay positive, I can stay happy. And when I'm happy, I'm powerful. And if I can just, manage my thoughts so that they don't go, spiraling into negative and waste. And because it's, waste thoughts and negative thoughts are never just one. You don't just have one negative thought, like, see, Ash isn't respecting me. It never does that, is it? Then it's like, see, Ash didn't talk to me. See, Ash didn't. It's, it's a whole lineup. So whereas with peaceful thoughts, you just say, I am peace, and that's it, full stop. I'm love, and that's it, full stop. So I really encourage you to move away from negative and negativity and negative people. Initially you have to, till you build your immunity. Then you can go try and help them. But really to try and stay positive. And for this, do what you need to do. If you need to journal, if you need to get your stuff out of your head and put it on some paper and then, close the book. Or if you need to talk to, but only one person, choose only one person. Yesterday, we were having a chat that sometimes when we have lots of, when, we have a problem, we go and tell 15 people about, so we're repeating this, right?
Yeah.
So no need to do that. Just find one person that is a confidant who you think can help you, who seems to be sane, and just tell them if you have to air it, vent it. But if you can deal with it yourself, with your mind, do it. And as I said, if you want to write it, get it out of your system, do that. But just try and stay as positive as possible. This is in essence and as simplest as I can make it, Ash. Because then, as I said, I'm respecting myself, I'm respecting my time, all my energies. And then whatever's in me is what will come out, right? If I'm peaceful and positive, then that will be my response to things. So then I become the creator of my destiny.
So everything comes back to look after what's in here.
Us exploring this term, ahimsa. I know a lot of the terms that are used in Hindi, or some of the terms that I've come across in Hindi or in Sanskrit, don't necessarily have a direct translation. So we end up using a term that is as close to it as we can see. And non-violence seems to capture this term, ahimsa. But I wonder if you could perhaps start by just clarifying what does ahimsa mean, and what does it actually mean in a practical sense? Because I think I feel that there is a deeper definition to this term ahimsa from a spiritual sense.
Yes, so Ash, himsa, H-I-M-S-A, himsa, actually means violence. So when you add A in front of it, it means not violent. Like in Hindi we have gyan, then we have agyan, right? So when you add A to it, it means not that, or that which is not. And so really in its bigger, greater definition of non-violence, it's not just about physical violence, but it's about how you treat another person. And so being non-violent means non-injurious, like not injuring somebody else. So not injuring somebody else physically, verbally, and even with your ill thoughts. So that means what? If we look at the other side of the coin, that means to have respect. To have respect for everyone, everything. And actually, it's not just Bapu Gandhi, that talked about ahimsa. Ahimsa is in Hinduism, which means also Jainism, Buddhism. It's also in Christianity, thou shalt not kill.
Mm-hmm.
So ahimsa is inherent, I think, in every faith tradition, where they're teaching us, the teachings are that don't hurt somebody else, which means what? Don't give sorrow to another being. And being is not just a physical person, but it could also mean plants, elements, even nature, matter. In fact, in Jainism, they don't even wear slippers because they don't want to hurt the creatures that are walking on the floor. And they don't want to hurt the creatures that are in the soil. That's why they don't eat root, vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is very much inherent. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. A really good way to conclude before we have a few minutes of meditation. And I just want to read out a few comments. Thank you, Sister Aruna, for your most enlightening talk on nonviolence. Thank you, DBG, very helpful. Thank you, Sister Aruna, very helpful as always. So some lovely comments coming through on this. Maybe if you could just guide us through a meditation for the next 5 minutes, that would be really great. And then we can conclude today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ash. So maybe everyone can just sit comfortably, try not to hold on to anything, just relax. And let us now create a thought of self-love. What does it mean to love myself? It means to love everything about myself. How I look, how I think, how I am. So just visualize yourself in front of you now. So like imagine you're looking into a mirror. And you're seeing yourself. And you're sending that mirror image all your love and good wishes. And I say to myself that even if I do something wrong, I will talk to myself with love. With kindness. And now from this place of self-respect, from this place of fullness, I look out at the world. My natural world. And I begin to love everything, respect everything. When I walk lightly so I do not hurt Mother Earth. When I speak, I do not hurt Mother Air. When I touch matter, I do not hurt Mother Matter. I touch it gently, I handle it with velvet gloves. And as I look at the person in front of me, any person, my relative, somebody on the street, somebody new, a stranger, I just see their light, the light of the soul. I practice seeing them as a soul with all its virtues. The body is just a costume. The body is just a cover, a cloak. The body is just a container. But the soul is the diamond. And the diamond is still a diamond, even when it's in mud. And so I look at that soul with lots of love and appreciation. So first step, feel yourself. Second step, feel Mother Matter. And third, others. When you are full, you can give to others. So just take a moment now to feel the fullness. Just feel the fullness of love and respect and kindness and love within your own self.
Shanti. Thank you so much for that. A lovely way to close our session today. And I just wanted to thank you for sharing on this very broad topic, because it's such a big topic, and just sharing insights, experiences, and stories. And I think that's what we need. We need examples sometimes just to see what it means to live in a non-violent way. So yeah, real heartfelt appreciation from the team here for joining us on this special occasion.